Guys, and welcome. This is a online training session where we're going to have a look at some real life gameplay on the right hand side from some of these guys at the top of their game. So this is the Champions League final in 2023 where City won 1-0, and we're going to have a look at the minute of footage before Rodri scored that goal. High pressure game, high stakes game, so they didn't do anything too special. They just stuck to their principles, and yeah, that's what in the end won them the game. So hopefully we can have a little look at what they did, learn something, and then move over here to the left hand side with something that looks a little bit more familiar. So let's go. A couple things to note before we start. To avoid copyright, you're only going to be able to see pictures. There's no video, which I know is really annoying. So as we run it through, you'll see stages. If you want to go and watch the full video, it is on YouTube. It's on BT Sport, as you can see here, and I've time-stamped. If you look at the top left here where my mouse is, this is the start of the clip, and then if we run it to the end, I've highlighted again the end of the clip. So if you want to go and have a look at the minute of footage before watching this video, completely understand that. Every screenshot is taken within this minute. Let's go. Principle number 1, the fluidity of their midfield box. So let's have a look at this midfield box as it moves across in this minute. Look at the shapes they are creating. Look at the angles they're creating. There is always movement. And whilst we call it a midfield box, there's lots of different shapes created here. Okay, thing to note just here, we've got a swap over. No worries at all. This could be like an Alan and an Isaac, you know, when we swapped over. And all it does is make a new person in our midfield box. So there we go. Now we've got Bernardo instead of John Stones in that midfield box. But he recognizes his new role and joins this box now. And let's have a look at their fluidity of this box. So we've gone from now, look at that, quite a big box here to look just within a second. The movement is brilliant. They are so fluid off the ball. Even if they don't receive that ball, they are making runs. This bit I love. Look at Foden. He's run beyond Haaland here. He's keen to get forward. This box that we tend to play tends to be quite static. And this again, I mean, look at Gundogan. He's found himself offside here, beyond Haaland. But we need to be doing a lot more of this in our game. Not being afraid to get in behind. Not being afraid to change the angles in this midfield box. I mean, look at this now. That is definitely not a box, guys. That is not this rigid square. And then finally, look at this. This is the last screenshot of this midfield box. And what do we have here? This is our striker, Haaland. And this is 1, 2, 3 of our midfield box. All have gone beyond him. They're all trying to get forward. And Rodri's also arriving into the box. Let's move it over to this left-hand side, where hopefully we'll have a look at stuff which looks a little bit more familiar. Firstly, that swap over, yeah. So we've got John Stones, who was actually playing right back, came and swapped with Bernardo Silva. That's very similar to something that we're doing, or that we tried to implement just before I came back to the UK. I think maybe my own fault as the coach. Whenever I set it up on a whiteboard, you guys see this. You see 4 like this. This is not how it should play. It should be runs down here. It should be runs over there. If you actually look at City, most of the time in this, they are looking something a bit more like that. Foden came and dropped in here. You had Gundogan made that run into this red zone. You had Bernardo Silva made the run into this red zone. But at no point really did we have that set square. It was dynamic, it was fluid, lots of movement even if they didn't receive the ball. Go and experiment, go and find space, go and be unpredictable in here. Okay, that's principle number 1. Let's move it back over to the right hand side. Principle number 2. To contrast what we're seeing in that midfield box, we've got the wingers and the striker being very rigid. Why? Because they create the edges for our canvas. We've got the striker here, Haaland, who maintains that height, and we've got 2 wingers who maintain the width. This makes the pitch bigger, and allows more space for that midfield box. So look at the box in here now. They've got more space because of the width being held by these guys and the height being held by Haaland. And it's exactly the same. Here we go, we're about to have another crossover. But look how wide they are. The ball is here, and look where Grealish is. Maintaining that width. Here we go, another crossover. All this means is that they swap roles. That's it. So John Stones now recognises that his role is wide right, and so he plays wide right. He may not be the most natural to it, but he's recognised Bernardo Silva's gone inside, so he needs to stay wide. And as we run it through, that width is actually what ends up creating the goal. So here we go. We've got our three, very wide, Haaland still very high, creating a lovely edge to our canvas. And here we see, this is the left back for the opposition, and this is the centre back. There's that space that's been created because John Stones is wide. The left back has come out to him. He's seen John Stones as a threat, moved across, making the space in behind for Bernardo Silva if we run it on. And the pass is played. Now, and only now, do we recognise the ball is about to fall back into this box. Bernardo Silva is about to make that cut back. And so we come narrower. So if you look here, the final screenshot when Rodri scores this goal, we've got winger 1, winger 2, and we've got Haaland. Very narrow. But we only come narrow and get into that box when we recognise that the ball is about to be cut back. When we recognise there's about to be a chance. Okay, for Haaland, let's just scroll through and watch him. The guy doesn't really move between the goalposts. He stays within the goalposts, and actually, he scores this chance if it isn't deflected. If you go and watch the video, that ball is coming straight to him. He doesn't move, he pins the centre backs, but he is the one who would have scored that goal, but for a deflection. So, moving over to the left hand side here, key points. Haaland maintains that height, and throughout, you'll see him pinning the centre back. So if we go back all the way here, there you go. He's pinning the centre backs back to allow more space for that midfield box in front. There you go. There he is. He's pinning them. So if he gets higher, there's more space in behind, in here, for our box to work. There's more space for people to operate. So our striker needs to get as high as possible to try and create more space in here, and our wingers nice and wide to try and pull their fullbacks out. And the width can be maintained by anyone, right? So if he comes in, maybe we've got our left back coming and creating that width if he's gone inside. And it's the same here. Normally, of course, it's our right back, but when he's inside, maybe we've created our back three like this, maybe tucked in. We might have width of 2 natural wingers. That's no worries at all. But the 3 positions are always occupied and they're nice and rigid. So we know where the edge of our canvas is. So we know where our wingers are and our striker is at all times. Okay, point number 3. Look for those red zones. So already on this first pause, we've got Bernardo Silva with his head up, looking down at the red zone and a run. Already. Now, make a note of these red zones. We know where they are by now, but they won't appear again on the screen, so please take note of them for reference. But look, head up, making a run already. We run it on, they choose not to play it. The run was made, but he passed inside. No worries, we still had a look. We recognise that that's where the danger is. Again, head up, this run can be made. The space is made because he's come out to the winger, so there's space in behind in our red zone. And if we run it on a little bit, and outside the boot pass in there, to a Foden who runs on, creates a very dangerous chance. Foden this time doesn't choose to create that run. No worries, the ball's recycled. Again, it comes over to Grealish. He's got his head up. His first thought is looking for that red zone. They know that this is the dangerous area of the pitch to get the ball in. It's where the defenders don't want the ball. They don't want to be turned around. They don't want the ball coming down the side of them. We've got head up, looking for that red zone, and this time we've got a run. The ball is played. It's not the best ball, but we win the second ball in this red zone, and now we've got a chance. We've created a problem for them. and we found ourselves in this red zone. And look at the defenders. Look how deep they are, because we find ourselves in these areas down the side of them. Let's run it on again. Our fourth example in under a minute. Akanji picks up the ball. His head's up. His first thought, as soon as he's got that ball, is, can I find this area over here? He's had one look. Run it on. He has another look, and now we've got another run. John Stones again, nice and wide, as I've already said, dragging out that left back a little bit. So there's space for that pass into that red zone. The run is made by Bernardo Silva, and now this is a very dangerous position to be in. We've found that red zone, and we know this cutback is coming. So we've got men in the box. There you go. Cutback comes from that red zone. Rodri comes onto it and finishes it. Okay, back over to the left-hand side then. So we know where our red zones are. I'm going to do a whole video on these red zones, looking at Liverpool and how they use them. But I think the most important thing to take away from this right now is to look for them a lot more than we do. So our inverted left back, he tends to want the ball in here. Patrick, Josh, this is where you want the ball, right? I want to encourage you guys to get in there, to find the space in that red zone, to keep making that run, even if it doesn't come. Maybe the ball isn't played. No worries. You've made that run, and that's what I want to see as the coach. And it's exactly the same over this side. So whoever it is, maybe this is Isaac, this is Jordan, right? He makes that run into that red zone for that ball to be played. So that Foden example was perfect. If Bernardo Silva plays that, they find themselves in the red zone. We need to work out different ways to get players into these dangerous areas. And I don't mind how you do that, just please look for it more often. Make runs into those zones more often. I am never going to tell you off for trying something to get into these most dangerous areas of the entire pitch. Never. Okay, let's move it back over. Point number 4. Numbers in the penalty area. So here we go. We've got Jack Grealish has played a pass into that red zone, so this is exactly the same clip. But look at the eagerness to get in that box. They recognise that there might be a second ball here. They recognise there's a chance of the ball falling in this area. And so look at the eagerness to get in that box. They're making runs in. They win that second ball. And now they find themselves in a red zone with 5 guys in that box. And that is only due to their effort to get in there. So that's the first time. Now let's run it on again. This is Akanji, who just played that pass. And look at the eagerness, the effort to get in that box. We've got 3 guys here. We've got Grealish, this is our winger, coming in narrow, as I've already said. Stones, our winger, coming in narrow. Foden coming in. And these guys are only coming narrow and only getting that box because they recognise there's a chance. But as soon as they recognise it, they are there. They are ready to attack that box. So let's run it on. When this ball comes back, the cutback's just been made. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in this box who could all receive this ball. And then, of course, one more who's just made the cutback. And if we run it on even more, this is Rodri, who's now attacking it. It's deflected. There's a second ball. We've got our 6 waiting on the edge of the box. And so if we run it on one more, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players in positions high up the pitch that could receive that ball, that could put the ball in the goal. It's a matter of chance once you get into that penalty area. The more players that we have in that penalty area when the ball is delivered, the more likely the ball is to fall to us. The more likely it is that we will get a shot off. I have never once seen, whilst at UCU, this. And I want to encourage us to do it. Here's the timestamp, guys, if you want it, to go and find that clip. So remember the one earlier up here. If you want to go and find the clip, it's on BT Sports YouTube channel. There's the 2 timestamps for you. So let's have another look on this left-hand side quickly before we finish. We've got Haaland. We've got all 3 of our more offensive players in our midfield box. We've got our right back or our winger who's tucked in, recognising a cutback. And the same with our left-sided player. We've got Ake. This is him, our inverted left back. This is our centre back, and we've got Rodri in here. I don't know where Diaz is. Let's presume he's in here, but this is what we find ourselves with, guys. I have never seen this. I don't want to encourage you to do this. Okay, just to recap, our 4 principles that we've learned from this minute of footage from Man City was a midfield box that is a lot more fluid, the strikers and the wingers being rigid to allow more space for that box, looking for those red zones more often than we currently do, and getting more numbers in that penalty area. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm sure there'll be another one coming pretty soon.